So what OS do you use?
The default one.
So what would you buy a computer without an OS? That's it, just default. You
It's
don't
just
care.
Default.
You just stare at a blank screen.
Do not care. No, I love using Macs. I love using OS X.
Okay, so that's what you're using at home as well.
Yeah, it's what I'm using at home. If I'm testing, I'll probably use Windows 10 or Linux and a VM.
Okay, so like I use OS X at work, largely because if I ever go somewhere to a conference, I need to plug it into a projector. That's normally the point that Linux will decide, lol, fail. But at home, I use like Linux and I love it. And the thing that I've realized is that each OS that I play with tends to have nice features that the other one doesn't. Yeah. And I'm sort of like polyfilling features with just apps. In your like bag of tricks, like what are your main tools that you use?
I rely pretty heavily on a tool called Browser Sync at the moment. So doing a lot of cross-device development, trying to build web apps that work really well on mobile, on tablet, on a desktop. Yep. And something that's useful in my flow is like whenever I make an edit to my app or my site, just having it like live reload across all the different devices.
Yep.
So Browser Sync lets you do that. Now, in their latest version, they've actually added an entire UI on top of that feature. It's kind of neat. So
nice.
Like you can, in addition to, so Browser Syncs always let you do interaction sync, which means that you can synchronize like clicks, scrolls, filling in forms.
Yeah, just anything you do on one gets replicated across the whole board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with their UI, you can now like get granular control over each of those. So you can say, well, I just want to synchronize clicks, or I just want to synchronize scroll.
Yeah, you can switch everything else off.
Yeah.
Nice.
And another new thing they've added, so you've used network throttling in DevTools, right? So Browser Sync also supports network throttling. Lots of presets included, very useful for just seeing how your sites perform on a slightly slower connection.
Nice, so basically where in DevTools you just have like a whole, like you'd have to do it for each individual device. This one's literally just like blanket, this is the speed.
Exactly, exactly.
And
useful for seeing what it's like to try out a site on a train where your connection's like super slow.
Doesn't support offline though, does it?
That sounds like a feature request you should be putting in.
There's no underground simulation to prove that Service Worker works. So think about that.
Be the feature requests you want to see in the world, man.
You know I hate that saying. So one of the other tools that I can't live without anymore is a Chrome extension called WhatFont. And literally all it does is you click it, it goes into this weird mode where the mouse ends up with a little like field, which is just the current font that's being used to render a piece of text. And I probably only use this at the start of a project where I'm selecting a font and I just need to make sure that the URL is actually the right one. Yeah. Because normally I'll put in a stupid typo and then it resets itself and I can't actually tell what the current font is on the page. This one does that. Long font family, and if it's like the middle one, it will just go, this is the one that's currently being used.
Do you use anything on top of Spotlight?
No.
For like finding things?
Like I find Spotlight is good enough for me for everything I need to do because normally you just open up an app and I'm done.
There is so much more to that. So a tool that's a little bit like Viagra for Spotlight is Alfred.
That makes no sense, but continue.
Alfred, right. So you should be using Alfred. Alfred is really cool because it gives you support for not just like finding folders and stuff, but it also gives you support for hotkeys and plugins. Now the plugin side gets really interesting. So Zeno Rocha put together this really cool repo called Alfred Workflows. Okay. Which includes a bunch of the really, really useful plugins in that ecosystem. So for example, you can add support for searching NPM directly to Alfred. So you can like easily find packages without even having to leave that window. Nice. You can search for grunt plugins, gulp plugins, add support for Dash, so you can look up documentation while you're working on your app. Nice. You can look for Sublime plugins, all sorts of stuff. It's got a lot of stuff supported.
Like I used to have something similar to that for Linux, like called GNOME Do, and it was literally like a hotkey kind of like Spotlight just pops up. You can start typing things in, but then it supported like plugins and all the rest of it. And it was really handy, but I just didn't use it enough. So didn't really need to.
That's cool. I mean, there's a ton of other tools that I use in my day-to-day workflow. I've tried to document some of that stuff in some slide decks.
Coming to another slide deck near you soon, I'm sure.